Welcome to our wildcard review episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. The first round of the playoffs is done. We're down from 14 potential Super Bowl winners to 8. I'd argue less than 8, but we'll get into that as we're talking through the games. 8 are left standing, and we're going to go through all the ups and downs of wildcard weekend. I, of course, am always joined by my co-host, Joe and Byron. Gentlemen, underwhelming wildcard weekend. I don't know if I think that's possibly fair to say with the way the games kind of played out, but playoff football is playoff football. How were your wildcard weekends?
Yeah, I think underwhelming wildcard weekend is more accurate than super wildcard weekend.
They knew when to drop it.
Yeah, they certainly did. Yeah,
so it changed the script.
Yeah, it was an underwhelming weekend of football. Let's be fair. I think there was one good game, but it's not always going to be like that every year. I know a lot of the 7 seeds do poorly, but it's still playoff football. There's still an edge to it, even if it's not exciting. So it's better than your average Thursday night football, but it is an underwhelming playoff weekend. It must be said, this one especially. Yeah.
Joe, how was it for you?
Yeah, there's not much to add on to that. It was a few of the games you thought, this could get interesting if one or two players are in a certain way, but it just never got going. And a lot of the favourites, or the home teams especially, dominated. And bit poor around. And 6 down, 7 playoff games to go. Let's hope the second half is a lot more exciting.
Yeah, that's it. We've only got 7 games left in our NFL season before we're going to go kind of 7 months without them. So, I think hopefully the price we've paid for a bit of an iffy wildcard weekend gets repaid on Divisional Round weekend, because we've got some great matchups. I suppose that we'll touch on as we go through. But before we get through and go over kind of the games, the 6 games for wildcard weekend, we do need to touch on the news in the NFL world. We'll start with mine and Byron's team, the Dallas Cowboys. They party. I want to use this because if you're watching on YouTube, I'll use the air commas. Parted ways with Mike McCarthy, head coach for the Cowboys for 5 years. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys did it in the most painful, messy way possible. Wait until the last possible moment, stopping Mike McCarthy from taking job interviews, screwing themselves out of people to speak to as well around the head coaching position. So they didn't just screw Mike, they screwed themselves. Byron, of course, I think it's only right I come to you first. Yeah, what have you made of kind of this mess again in Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, mess in Dallas is kind of just the way it's run nowadays. It feels, the last few years especially, I think Jerry Jones is, just to be flat, I think losing it essentially as an owner, as a GM, he doesn't make good decisions largely ever. I think they draft relatively well, considering Jerry's input obviously is there. But, we've seen it with CD, we've seen it with Dak Prescott, we're going to see it with Micah Parsons. They're holding off on waiting to the last minute to do these deals. I don't know what he anticipates happening. And I wouldn't have advocated for Mike McCarthy to stay. I don't think it would have been heinous if he had, though. I felt after last year, I think his stock's higher after this year than it was after last year, despite making the playoffs the year before, because it feels like he kind of had the team rallied around him this year more in worse circumstances. So I think if he'd got an extra year, I would have understood it. He didn't want an extra year. I think he wanted 3, an actual coaching contract, which, he can feel his resume deserves. Again, I would have my hesitation about giving him a 3-year contract, but it's just the nature of it all. It's always Jerry dragging his feet, not wanting to make a decision. And the only person he ends up hurting, essentially, is himself / the Dallas Cowboys. It's no way to run a team. You don't see any other teams run this way. The Bengals is probably about the closest I can think of who pay their stars late. But even they got Joe Burrow done in a timely manner. They're not sacking Zach Taylor a week after the season. It isn't how a professional organization is run in 2025, 2024. I don't know what the future is for Dallas with Jerry managing the way he is, but it's hard to have any optimism.
it's beyond a farce at this point. And I think we spoke this time 12 months ago about surely Mike McCarthy probably should have been going after them getting beat by the Packers. And I thought that was the right time to do it. Okay, you want to go on the last year of his contract? Okay, not a great situation. The least you can do is treat the man with some dignity and respect as a bare minimum. I think at best, what the way they've gone about it is just misjudged and just bad practice or malpractice. That's at best. At worst, I think it's malicious and just downright mean. Well,
the thing of turning down the Bears interview request, with to go on his contract, for him to then not be renewed is like, it's the only way you can look at it as mean and malicious. Like it's not a professional way to do things, and other coaches see this, other players see this. Like,
why would you want to come? Why would you want to be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys?
Exactly. It's going to be nobody's first choice unless they just want drama, and if they do, they're not a serious head coach. And I reflect back on, I forget what the year it'll be now, maybe 2015, when Des Bryant got cut in essentially training camp, and like free agency had long gone, everyone had spent all the money, and then Jerry decides to cut Des Bryant, and Des Bryant had been a great he's a Packer. Des Bryant had been a great Cowboy. He again deserved more respect than he got. You don't cut your legends of your franchise when they've nowhere else to go. And I'm not saying Mike McCarthy's a franchise legend, but he is your head coach, and again, he just deserves treated with respect. He's not a bad guy. It's just dumbfounding, and it'll impact Dallas because literally impacts their ability to recruit a new head coach because they're now waiting on playoff cycles ending. But also reputationally, it affects them, and it's like Jerry doesn't see it.
Yeah, I think kind of my gut says that the way that this has gone is that they were hoping just to back McCarthy into a corner, that he'd accept a one-year deal on the basis that they'd already sounded out head coaches and the people that they wanted weren't interested, and then in the hope that in 12 months' time they'd be able to let McCarthy go and get somebody who would be more preferred to them. That kind of feels like it's go, and I really do hope, and I've probably put it on our Twitter account, I do hope Mike McCarthy flipped the bird or told Jerry to suck it. Yeah, I really do. I hope that's the way that those kind of negotiations finished. They put a statement out to say, Jerry put a statement out to say it kind of didn't get to negotiations. Schefter seemed to think it did. Think I'd side with Schefter on this one, but I hope McCarthy really told him to go fuck himself. I'd be real happy for Mike if he got to do that.
Yeah,
it's crazy. The statement where he came out with that, they were evaluating how the season went and where things were going, and then we just decided it wasn't working. So you should know that, going into that 2 weeks before you do, before you turn him down to get other head coach. It's just poor management, which way it went. It's the wild. I think it got mentioned that Dallas is one of the only teams who gives the contract just 2 weeks after the end of the year as well, where a lot of it's at the end of the season. Why give that extra 2 weeks? You could talk to him beforehand. The season was over a couple of weeks ago. It's not like it was close to the playoffs.
It was week 7, wasn't it? It was over.
That's what I'm saying. But even not realistically, it was week 15 when they just could not make any more. So surely would have thought, okay, let's talk now. Let's get this sorted instead of being, let's wait till the season ends 2 weeks in. And I think, like you said, I think they were just hoping to back him in a corner. Mike McCarthy's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's not a chump I don't want to say Jason Garrett, but, he felt like Jerry Jones could tell Jason Garrett what to do. And it was a bit like that with Mike McCarthy, but I think Mike McCarthy had a bit more of a backbone and a bit more of a say where he wanted to go, and to offer just a 1-year contract constantly, and you expect people to be like, jump through hoops just because we're the Dallas Cowboys. If that's not the law anymore, that's gone. And I just worry for the next head coach where you see some of the names coming out, and it's looking like, for me personally, it's either going to be an ex-Dallas Cowboy player, staff member, or it's going to be a grizzled head coach who's looking for his second and third job, who no one's really going to give an opportunity. A bit like how the Bears do it a lot of the times. It feels like Cowboys are going to go into that routine because what young and exciting coordinator or head coaches want to be like, oh, I want that guy who's the owner, but also the GM, and just, doesn't back his
Has a
head
radio
coach.
show every fucking week.
Exactly. It doesn't just, it's not just you running the team, you're having to deal with that non-stop.
Yeah. I'd say it's probably on par with kind of the Jaguars opening at the minute, because you've also got kind of their...
I'll take the Jags job in a second.
What's going on with their GM and the owner, but yeah,
they can fire the GM in Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, there is that.
As Khan has made clear, he will get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what your guys view, because it seems like some of the players are happy with the firing, or there's certainly, that's if you read the leaves, that like CeeDee Lamb, I think Pastor said it was for a fresh start. There wasn't like a big outcry that it is. So I'm guessing it's the right thing, but I'm guessing it's the timing and where you go.
The manner of it, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next on, I mean, if you could, again, just with the element of it being realistic, Byron, who would you want? Again, with
my number one choice for any franchise in this coaching cycle is Ben Johnson. Came up with Dan Campbell, seems to have the culture right. He's obviously a great play caller. I think, as a rule, you want a really, really good offensive coach, because if not, you get a defensive coach and then you have to get a good OC, and the OC is going to go and be a head coach somewhere if he's good. So, yeah, Ben Johnson would be my first choice. My second choice would be Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay. Same kind of reasoning. And I kind of, obviously no news out of it yet, but I kind of think if Tampa want to keep him, I think they might have to get rid of Todd Bowles and make him the head coach.
That's interesting. I think for me, obviously, I just don't think it's realistic that Ben Johnson comes from that situation to this one. I just don't think he's going to be willing to do it. Maybe Joe Brady.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. I really do think it's going to be Kellen Moore. Joe, any views from your point of view you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think I've said like what types are, like the Kellen Moores, the Cliff Kingsbury, the Mike Zimmer, which we've mentioned, who is, an old grizzled vet, and Alexander Dallas as staff already, which will be a lot cheaper. Yeah, I can see that happening given a 1-year contract. He's going to take that because no one else really wants him, so why not give it?
Yeah.
So, I can't see Dion, who obviously is the favourite.
He is the favourite at the minute. He's even money with DraftKings at the minute. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like someone that would challenge Jerry, I think. I think he would, Dion wouldn't put up with his shit. But also, he would bring the eyes and the attention that Jerry create. On the one hand, he's everything that Jerry would love. But on the flip side, he'd stand up to him.
Is everything that Jerry will love if he's winning football games.
Yeah.
You don't want the eyes and losing football, because that's heading for a 1-year divorce.
Yeah, and that could be really bad in its first season.
Yep.
I think Dion will be a really good NFL coach, just not yet. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready yet. But everything he touches, everything he does, he wins. I can't see why that wouldn't be any different. But yeah, I just don't. I think maybe he needs a bit more time before making the jump. Feels like there's other opportunities that would suit him better in the college game at the minute, whether that's staying at Colorado or moving to Florida State at some point. Those are the things to do. So maybe not yet for Dion. One of the while Dallas were fucking about with all of that, one of the vacancies were filled, and what a great Dallas Cowboys coach Mike Vrabel would have been. However, he is now the head coach of the New England Patriots, which surprised nobody. What do we make of Vrabel at the Pats?
Inevitable, I guess. It kind of felt like. I was kind of surprised. Obviously, just mentioned Ben Johnson and maybe being picky. I was surprised Ben Johnson interviewed there, but Drake May early pick. I guess it makes sense. I just don't know. It doesn't feel like a very Ben Johnson-y place, but yeah. Anyway, Mike Vrabel. He's obviously very Patriots way. I don't think they're looking to reinvent the wheel, are they? They want young Bill Belichick to come back, and I think this is their chance to do it. But I'm a little torn. I'm not as smitten with Vrabel as you are. Obviously, I think he's fine. He could be really good again, but I do worry about his he did have a drop off. He did have a power struggle. I'd say I'm like maybe like 55% optimistic, not hugely, but like more optimistic than pessimistic, I guess. Just not a huge one. I hope they get a good OC in, I guess. Josh McDaniels will be an interesting hire. A, to Patriots way, and B, there's no chance he's going anywhere else as a head coach. So, you might have that Steve Spagnuolo type.
He could do some great work with Drake May as well, I think, Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, he's a good OC. Yeah. And again, as long as personalities don't clash too much, because McDaniels has history for it. Again, like, you look at the Chiefs with Steve Spagnuolo, who can't get a head coaching job for, I don't know what the reason is. I know what the reason Josh McDaniels won't get one is. But if you can get a coordinator who's basically going to be, that's their peak of their career going forward, because I don't think anyone will hire Josh McDaniels again as a head coach after the last two spots. It could be great to have, your OC in forever. Vrabel, again, very disciplined, very smart coach. Like I said, my only concern is when things drop off, do they drop off like they did in Tennessee really badly? But he has got a good body of work. So I think for the most part, it's a good hire. And there's issues, I think, obviously, with how the Patriots went about it. Kind of piss-taking the Rooney Rule, bringing in Byron Leftwich and I won't say David Culley. It wasn't David Culley. It was the college coach whose name I've forgotten, obviously. But that kind of sums up the point that they brought in two black head coaches to interview on a half day to tick the box that we want to hire Mike Vrabel. Fuck the Rooney Rule. So I think there's some slight issues there, but they've got the man. They thought they had the man last year, so we'll see how they go. I think it's a really attractive job, though, with Drake May.
Yeah, I think this was the most obvious hire, which if this didn't happen, that would have been a huge shock. I feel like they got rid of, the head coach because of Vrabel, because he was the hot ticket this coaching cycle where a few other teams wanted this. They're like, we'll either do it now or we're never going to get Vrabel. So I just feel like, they wanted it. So yeah, makes sense. It feels like the Ben Johnson statement. It may have been more like it was just practicing interviews. When you just go for a job and it's just like, oh, practice my interview skills. I wonder if it was like that kind of training. But I'm really interested how it's going, how it's going to go. Whoever gets offensive coordinator is massive because it is still a young quarterback, and it's a lot easier when you have the GOAT as your quarterback running everything to a young rookie to see where they go with that and how they improve this team, because it's not like they're one or two players away from being a good team. This might take a good year or two before they're challenging for the playoffs or whatnot. I guess it's just the improvement you want to see in the general attitude and play. But yeah, I think they're going to be big spenders in the free agency.
Yeah, they've gone back-to-back 4 and 13 seasons. They've got obviously money to burn in free agency and a high draft pick. Would expect to see a lot of movement to improve that O-line. And then you need to help Drake May getting some more weapons. And maybe that defense isn't quite as good as we thought it was, but that's where certainly Vrabel can certainly help. Last bit of news, I suppose. We've talked to Mike McCarthy out at Dallas, Vrabel in Patriots. We found out who our home teams are going to be for the NFL London games. International Series, 3 games coming to London. Of course, one of those is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They will play at home at Wembley Stadium. We're not going to get the Jaguars for back-to-back weeks like we have done the last 2 years. I think we might get both the Jets and the Browns staying over for an extended stay. The Jets and Browns have got the home games at Spurs. The Jets are due to play the Jaguars on the road. The Browns are due to play the Jets on the road. I think we're just going to get them all in London, and that's going to be they just do not give a fuck anymore.
You've had it for a number of years now. You get what you're given.
Yeah, I kind of gathered it might have been bad on the basis of there's Madrid as a new location, and there's Berlin, even though the Germany have had some games before. Berlin's a new location. There's potentially Dublin and potentially another one as well. They're up to getting to 8 for next season. So likely a premium. I just think you're going to get better teams sent there. The 3 teams that are hosting games in London had 12 wins between them last year. There are 7 teams that had 12 or more wins in the NFL this season.
Well, let's be honest. When the London game can sell out all these Jags, double Jags game, then they can just send anyone over and they're going to sell it out. So it's just whichever team wants to build their fan base is, they'll go ahead, have 2 games. It's good for Jets and Browns fans, which I know there's plenty in the UK. So
yeah. We'll see. I wonder if they do. That's just the pessimist in me was saying they'll do double Jets, double Browns. We'll see. It could be the Cowboys play the Jets on the road. It could be the Cowboys. If they go do double Jets, double Browns, I do not think these games sell out. And this might be a bit of an interesting moment. Because as well, it's £100 a ticket now.
Yeah.
Cheapest you're getting, well, it was £90 a ticket last year. That was the cheapest price you could get him for. I don't think you're selling £100 a ticket. Jets, Jags, Jets, Browns, Titans, something like that. I do not think you're gonna sell out.
At that point,
the
just
number one pick. Yeah, the number one pick to the Titans. They'll jazz that kind of stuff up. They got the Bears over there who had been terrible the last few years. So
Bears have a fan base though. The Titans.
Yeah, I feel like the Jets do though.
Yeah,
so I think if it's against the Jets,
yeah. So we'll see. We'll find out the opposition teams in the summer. I think it was usually about May, June. I think we'll find out the opposition teams. So as the schedule comes out. So yes, we'll find out.
I like putting the London games in here because it makes the wildcard weekend look better.
Yeah, that's the good spot, and these games we'll talk about. Well, let's get into talking about wildcard weekend then, and we're recording Tuesday, so a day later than usual, just to have let the Monday night game obviously play out. So we'll start there. The Rams played the Vikings in Arizona. First off, shout out the Cardinals. Arizona, what a job they did in helping the Rams, I thought. Just, helping them fly out, setting the stadium up as much as they could to make it a Rams home game. They went the extra steps that they didn't really, they were hosting the game for them. That was a pretty good thing to, but they really went the extra step. So shout out the Cardinals, clearly a classy organization, unlike some that we've talked about to start the episode. But the Rams, just overwhelmed the Vikings, 27-9. This was over, I'd say over at halftime. It was over before then. The Rams had 9 sacks of Sam Darnold. Just completely suffocated the Vikings. And this was a stroll for the Rams.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I look at my chart, I think Sam Darnold just got sacked again. Not all his fault. I don't say I'm a Sam Darnold hater because that's too much, but he's been really good this year, but I always felt like the bubble's going to burst, and I feel so bad for him because it came at the two of the worst games of his career. Let's be fair and let's be blunt about it. Have come in the last 2 weeks when the lights are at its brightest. Games that could have defined his career going forward, and outside of an injury, I don't know. I can't think of players who've lost so much money. I would expect in the case of 2 games on 8 days, as poor Sam Darnold has in the last couple of weeks. His O-line did not help him out in any way, though. I think, obviously, since Darisaw went down, they brought in Cam Robinson immediately, which I think is good team building. And it's kind of, that's what your 4th-round picks are there for, not for Jonathan fucking Mingo and Trey Lance. But, I think the Vikings did exactly what they could. I think they've tried the best to compete in a rebuild. And a lot of credit to the GM and Kevin O'Connell to do that. But it's just come up short in all the wrong moments for them. They've lost twice to the Lions, twice to the Rams, and ultimately that's killed their season. Last night was a tough watch. It was 9 sacks. It was 82 yards that Sam Darnold lost. That's the most in a playoff game in NFL history. It's tied for the most in an NFL game since 1992. It was just brutal. Every time he dropped back, it felt like he was going to get absolutely battered. I don't know what else the Vikings could have done, though, really. They tried getting the running game going a little with Aaron Jones, and that didn't have much impact. And the point is, once you're, 2 scores down, it's really hard to have a running attack when, Matthew Stafford played really well. He had love that play design on the opening touchdown to Kyron Williams where he kind of blocked. and then wheels out, and Stafford throwing across his body for an easy completion on paper, but like a tough environment to throw it because you don't really want to throw across your middle right there into the end zone. But they just took care of business, the Rams. That defense was fierce and relentless. Jared Verse, I don't think actually had a sack on the game, but obviously he had the touchdown. Felt like he was in the backfield repeatedly, doing his best Superfly Jimmy Snooker on Sam Darnold. Yeah, I feel bad for how the season ended for the Vikings, but I think you do have to look at their season as a huge success overall. Kevin O'Connell still think deserves Coach of the Year recognition, or certainly consideration if he doesn't actually get it. And the Rams are a real player now. Tough game coming up, obviously, but they're all tough games now.
Yeah, that Jared Verse moment where he splashed in was like if you paused it and hit the record scratch, and you're like,
yeah,
are you wondering how I got here? Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him because the whole line kind of just went to pieces. The Rams front obviously played so well, but there were just too many of them sacks where he just got gun shied and he kept pulling it down. Didn't throw. You could hear Joe Buck on commentary on Monday Night Football. The ball needs to come out. The ball, as he's just getting engulfed, and that was like the 4th, 5th time, and like he's getting fed up of commentating on it. And yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him, but there was just an element of where he fell to pieces as well, like just in the moment. And you know what? I want to say, just you've lost in the playoffs when you think you can compete. At least the Vikings know now. At least the Vikings know where they're at and they can plan what to do. And they're not kind of left in that. It's like if they'd have won one, if they'd won a playoff game, it's a real difficult call to go, well, we're going to get rid of the guy that's won 14 games in a playoff game.
Yeah. I would say now, though, the only thing is, Kevin O'Connell's done great this year, but he's had 3 big games. The playoff 2 years ago against the Giants, the Lions, and then today, and they no-showed in every single one. He was like a heartbreaker, or they could have gone either way. They no-showed these last 2 games. I know it was a bit closer against the Lions, but the offense where he's the main man just like no-showed, and it just felt like they didn't change anything. Yeah, the offense line didn't play well, but when he showed like how long they had to sack Darnold, it wasn't like he was quick sacks. It was just I was getting so frustrated. Obviously, I had the Vikings. I'm a 4-4, and it's just some of the times just throw it away. Throw it away if it's not there. Like you see that with Stafford, like a huge moment where I still feel it was a bit harsh on the Vikings when he was 10-3 and he gets sacked and the class as a throw and that there was someone in the area. I don't think it should have been either. It looked like intentional grounding. He wasn't throwing it to anyone. I thought it was harsh, but like obviously he knew what to do there. If that was a fumble and they ran it back in 10-10, totally different game. And obviously they had the punt as well, where he somehow went through the guy's arm. Yeah. So like, which is crazy. So obviously they're the little moments which can change games. But other than that, they just didn't look like scoring, even on that long field goal drive. It just never felt like they were going to get that touchdown. And even if the touchdown they scored wasn't amazing, it was like a badly thrown ball where Hawkinson somehow managed to get it on his hip, which confused the cornerback. So it was just a bad game all around. And yeah, they just confused him. He just, he had the famous seeing ghost. He wished he was seeing ghosts at that point because he was just getting hit non-stop. And then what happened, because that's how it started, even the easy throws over the middle, he was just not hitting them. And you could just see he just had nothing. And he's done that, like I said, the last 2 games where, if you're a big quarterback on these big games, you hit them kind of throws. Even if you get hit a couple of times, you still hit them easy throws over the middle and get them going. And yeah, I felt like the Vikings more or less gave up at half time, because when they came out, when they were running it and just wasting so much time, like at the end of the 3rd quarter, they were 21 points down, but they were just, the drives were just taking so long, and you just feel like, just get it going, just like, throw it there, not just like run into it and take your time. And it felt like they just knew that they'd lost that game completely. But the Rams just confused, like I said, all the blitz, the corner blitz, everything. And then in the second half, they confused down with the opposite way, where they pretended they were going to blitz and they went back into coverage. And it was just a bad game all around. didn't really change. Kevin O'Connell, they feel like they didn't make any adjustments, and McVay outsmarted him, and the defensive coordinator outsmarted him, and like I said, it was over at halftime. It's hard to blame the Vikings defense. Obviously, the first 2 drives, they couldn't stop the Rams, but then after that, it felt like the Rams didn't need to do much to actually win this game.
Yeah, I thought it's kind of a bit of a master, like the guiding how to and how not to play against blitz and pressure as a quarterback. Like Matthew Stafford, numbers wise, he didn't show that he had a particularly great game, but I thought he played particularly well in the first half and just made the right decisions every single time. The right decision in the face of pressure, the right decision every time in the face of the blitz. Knew where his quick outs were, knew where the hot route was, knew where he could punish it. And just he's so decisive. I think the Rams are real alive here and can carry on making some noise, I think, in these playoffs. And another one I was really impressed with from an offense perspective, a lot of flowers to the defense, obviously. Tyler Higbee had a real good game as well. Yeah. And he's, again, just like another weapon that he's recently come back from injury. And he seemed, certainly on Monday night, seemed to be up to speed. And he's going to be a real big option for them. I think he played in the last 3. I think maybe played in the last 3 games.
I think he went out again, though, didn't it, during the game? I feel like he got injured during the game, so fingers crossed. Because, they don't need it all, like, going next week against the Eagles. I think it's a completely different proposition and kind of team they're playing. But, they opened everyone's eyes, especially that defense, who have been good, but not that good. If you'd gone into this game, who's got the best defense, you would have said, Vikings by quite a way, but it was the absolute opposite. So, great game plan, and well done to the Rams. And like you said, Vikings lose to 2 teams, and that's the season done.
The season done. And we all whiffed on our bets, the 5 bets we had between us. We all had kind of combos of touchdown scorers because, like I said, we weren't too sure on the game itself, given where it was going to be and all that jazz. It was a struggle. So, we whiffed. But that TJ Hockenson touchdown that you mentioned, Joe, did help us and secure us cashing in fantasy game day. So, there's a plus. There's a plus for the lads. Rams move on to play the Eagles. Vikings off on holiday. Sunday night football, and this is probably the best game, the most competitive game of the week. Had an incredible ending. The Commanders end their 19-year wait. 19, I think it was, 19-year wait for a playoff win by repeating the feat and beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa 23-20 on the doinked field goal. Just an incredible way to win the game. And it was a close one. These breaks just seem to keep falling the Commanders' way. And they have been on this run. And I'm not saying they are lucky, because they are a good, solid football team. But the breaks just keep going their way, and they keep on running and taking advantage of them. We've seen those kicks, fire back off the posts. We've seen them double doink. Very rarely we see them banking. The Bucs handed him a couple of kind of lifelines. Baker with a key fumble in his own 20. Missed timing of the snaps, settling for field goal. Bucky Irving not running over somebody to get a first down, I thought was possibly the most critical of all the mistakes that led to that kind of botched snap. But it was just these little parts of the game that fell to the Commanders, and they're there. They're in the divisional round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I heard them described, I'm not even sure where it was now, but I heard them described as the Kamikaze Commanders. And I believe that's 5 wins in a row on the last play of the game for the Commanders, which is wild when that runs into the playoffs. Really fun team to watch, really fun game. I feel for the Bucs, I feel for Baker, but hard not to be thrilled for, everyone in Washington watching that Schneider stink off them. Jane Daniels as a rookie. And you know what? I'm real impressed by Dan Quinn's ballsiness. Like, kind of emboldened by Jane Daniels, I guess, but like, when Todd Bowles is kicking on 4th down, Dan Quinn's got, pedal to the metal, and we're going for it. We've got a quarterback who can get us win games, who can get us 4th down in his legs with his arm, and we're going to go for it. I love it. I think it is not what I anticipated Dan Quinn being like as a head coach. I will say I thought he'd be conservative. He's a defensive guy, but Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's a great twist for Dan Quinn. And again, as I've done with Dan Campbell over the years, I'll always applaud coaches who are ballsy enough to go for it and are not playing to not lose, especially in the playoffs. So, yeah, pleased for Dan Quinn, who I think, with how things ended in Atlanta, I think it's nice for him to have a redemption arc. Jane Daniels is not just his athleticism. When he stands back in the pocket, you compare him to Sam Darnold as a rookie, and he's so composed. He's so cool. He moves around in the pocket even, it doesn't need the mobility to do that. Tom Brady was a great pocket mover who couldn't run a 40. And Jane Daniels, I'm not going to say it's Tom Brady, but he's got that, like, just almost like Matrix. Joe Burrow has it as well, of like, you can just sense when the pressure's getting there, and he just moves so smoothly. I wouldn't want to write him off going anywhere and winning. I can't wait for their matchup next week, because Detroit's defense has stepped back up. Sorry, we're getting into preview talk here, but like, I just love people like Jaden Daniels, and we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson soon and Josh Allen soon. You can't really account for everything. You just can't. And as good as it would have been seeing Baker, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving continue through the playoffs, I can't help but be a little excited about this Washington team, even as a division rival, of just like, there's that almost like, again, Wayne Rooney as a kid, is like, there's that fearlessness, there's that sense of like almost recklessness of like, they shouldn't be here. So like, they're not afraid to go out and, punch you in the nose and win a game in a way that I like to see teams do it. So yeah, this is clearly the best game of the weekend. I don't even think this one went over, did it though?
No, 23-20 was a 50 that was an over.
Yes, this was comfortably under again. But yeah, I thought this was a real good game of football, real good game of playoff football. Again, compared the other 5 we got.
Yeah, what is it with these coaches named Dan that just love going for it on 4th down? 3 and 5. So even like, it didn't work a couple of times and he still kept going for it. Kind of got rewarded a little bit as well. Kind of one of the ones that they went for where the Bucs stuffed them. That's where they got the Baker fumble in their own 20, backs up against the wall.
I would say that helped with Kim's route, because they were 1st and goal on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
And if you can't punch that in, I know there was that, was it that where it should have probably been a defensive pass interference on that series where they said it did, well, it certainly looked like it anyway. But yeah, they got away with that kind of, the offensive players on that series was not great. So Baker certainly helped them out. But you got to give it to Commanders. Oh, even like the defense, this Buccaneers offense has been putting 30 on teams. Yeah. And I think you mentioned, I think it was a bet maybe last week, Byron, you put on that the scoring average of 30 points per game, and they managed to hold them to 20. They managed to like have big stops. The like Lattimore, it felt like he was getting absolutely dominated by Mike Evans, but they're still stuck with it, and they managed to keep him to field goals, and huge all around. And I think, like you said, Jane Daniels having that ability is so big. Like, I think it was the Brown catch, which he had a huge game as well. He obviously got the touchdown, but he got the 3rd down catch on that last drive to win it on 3rd down. Where they're spying him, there's 2 players spying him because they're so scared of his legs, and then it just opens up the passing game so much. And then on the vice versa, when it was the 3rd down, or was it where Kansas had him, and he grabs his towel and then keeps hold of his towel, which I think was so funny. It was like flag football basically, and he was there, but the Jim Daniels had that. It's like Matrix X, where it's just like, oh, he's going to get tackled, and you see the players through like Sam Darnold, where as soon as someone's near him, he's like crumbling, and they managed to just like stay out of it, and so silky smooth, and then gets that 1st down, which was huge. So you got to give, I think, all the team offense and defense, because they both just play complementary football, and the biggest compliment to Jane Daniels is that he's just nails in the 4th quarter. There's been plenty of games where he doesn't look like a rookie. I think he's got. In the 4th quarter and overtime, he completes 72% of his passes, 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, which is most by a rookie, the touchdowns in league history. So he doesn't feel like a rookie whatsoever, and it's just so good. And but when you look at the grand scheme of it, the Bucs feel like they lost it themselves. The big players, like you said, the Baker fumble. the Bucky Irving, who's had a great year, not getting that first down.
It was crazy that how the Bucky just didn't. He was there. He had the core. He had the edge, and he just needs to put his shoulder in, and he's got that first down.
Yeah,
it was
magic. Which rookie mistakes, and obviously the Baker one where I didn't even know what he was doing. Obviously the jet sweep where it felt like he pulled out of it, or like the timing wasn't quite right.
Timing was off. It looked like yeah.
But then the other one, it sounds like they had a play. Baker changed it. Everyone knew except the rookie center who snapped the ball, and everyone just stopped still. And you're like, shit, pass to the run. And by that time, the defense has already got it. So that's like huge as well. 3rd and 1. It's 20-17. If the Bucks get that first down, they could bleed the clock and probably get a touchdown. They're probably favored to get, and that's winning it right there. Jane Daniels could have done Jane Daniel things, but them little moments, the Commanders, like so the Clancy who had a great game. That kind of moments, they were on the right side of it, the doink, while the Buccaneers weren't just on the wrong side of Daniels' plays, but when they had to make the plays, they just didn't come up with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Daniels, he's so composed, and he just has clarity of thought. He just doesn't flinch in these moments. It's incredible. And yeah, I agree with Byron in terms of I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Josh Allen and Lamar and all that. He might be, I don't know, but what he can do is he's that guy that regardless of whoever else the Commanders have got, he can win the game. So it doesn't matter how big an underdog they are. I think the 10-point underdogs next week, he can win that game. He's that good. Impressive stuff. But they got plays from everybody. Like obviously, De'Ami Brown had a great game. They were going to Austin Eckler down the stretch, who we've all written off as just being completely useless. He was making key plays. They
still need to prove that when they only 33 carries for 82 yards is shocking.
It was, but. You mentioned Kancey had a great game. Every time I watch the Bucks, Vita Vea gets better. He was unbelievable, Vita Vea, in the middle. And I think the issue is there, Brian Robinson only knows one way, and that's just to run straight ahead. And he just kept running into Vita Vea. And it was just like, well, there's only one winner. And he just kept running into Vita Vea time and time again. So, yeah, they did a little bit of an alternative, I think, the Commanders. And maybe they'll get a bit more success on the ground next week against the Lions. Who knows? But I think probably as well the key part of this, and you mentioned about kind of how the Bucks had been putting a lot of points up recently against teams. The Commanders just didn't let them have the ball, really. Mm-hmm. They won that time of possession battle. Baker only threw it 18 times.
He also trucked Bobby Wagner, which was a great play.
I was just about. I shouted that out that would happen in the preview. We're going to get that clip. Baker hit my half of the parlay. I had the quarterback rush yards parlay. Jaden Daniels didn't hit, although he had the carries to hit it. When he had 13 carries, I was like, I've got a chance. But Baker hit his side of it, and he just trucked Bobby Wagner, which is incredible stuff. Knew we were going to get one of those. And one thing we didn't get, sadly, was a Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans full fight. But yeah, Evans won that side of things pretty handily, I think. It looked like he was going to take over in the run-up to halftime. Just couldn't carry on. Yeah, no other Bucks receiver caught more than 2 passes.
No.
Yeah, they just, yeah. But yeah, Bucks, they're done. Commanders play the Lions next in what should be a fun one on Saturday night. I was hearing a lot of Todd Bowles hate afterwards from Bucks fans from what I could see. Is that fair?
I think it's a little harsh, truthfully. I think since he got there, he's done nothing but win division.
And even last year, he beat the Eagles as well, and they nearly beat the Lions.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel a bit bad because we talk about Mike McCarthy as not too bothered that he lost and he's had a good record, But I don't know. What's the ceiling for Tampa Bay? Are we expecting Tampa Bay to win the Super Bowl with what they have? I don't think that's really realistic. I think Todd Bowles is just an easy punching bag, to be fair, because he's a defensive head coach, and he does make defensive decisions, which are frustrating, I guess. But I think there's some case fans are just a bit too entitled, really.
I always think, like, what's the alternative with all this kind of stuff? Like,
Yeah.
what you get, like, obviously they're saying the offensive coordinator, if he goes, get him in a head coach. But how many times has an offensive coordinator become a head coach and absolutely stink the joint out? Last year they had
Canales.
Yeah, and obviously he's turned it around. But at the beginning it was like, oh, okay, this is a bit rough. But they've carried on being good. So he's, when he said we always do the opposite way when we say, oh, if they keep changing things but everything keeps going wrong, it's usually the one common factor. Well, it's the reverse. They keep being good. He is the one common factor. So they've had a few offensive coordinators there, and he's managed to keep them winning the division. So I think it's harsh. I think some of the in-game decisions, like you said, is a bit curious with his timeout, and he's not the greatest that way. But it's not like his defense let him down. His defense was great, really. Had a decent game and kept it 23. The offense, when it mattered, the two biggest players which cost them that the game was, the fumble and the bad snap. So
it's 11, but in essence, cost them 11 points, didn't it? Really? Those just two plays themselves. So, and Joe, you don't had any real success from a betting perspective on this one. You had Evans and McLaurin anytime touchdown double plus 300. Me and you, Joe, were on the over that didn't hit. Byron, you had a couple of bets, didn't you? Zach Ertz and a rushing and passing touchdown from each team each half.
Yeah, that's a YOLO one.
Yeah,
70-1, I think that.
75-1, yeah. Fair. Eagles Packers. The next one we'll head into Sunday. This was real bad for the Packers. This was awful for the Packers, wasn't it? Everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Packers in this one, including coughing up the ball on the opening kickoff and allowing the Eagles to score 4 plays later. It just did not really get any better from there. 3 interceptions for Jordan Love. 3 left guards, I think they had to play. Receivers, they were already missing Christian Watson, and then Dobbs and Jaden Reed got hurt. It was just awful from a Packers perspective. Their offense was just Josh Jacobs, wasn't it, really? And the Philadelphia Eagles were a bit rusty offensive-wise. It felt like Jalen Hurts probably needed to get this game done and under his belt. But their defense stood up strong. And the Eagles were so comfortable that A.J. Brown was reading a book on the sideline.
Yeah, that was quite a sight, wasn't it? I do feel a little for the Packers in the same way we talked about Matthew Stafford's not fumble, not intentional grounding. That was a Packers ball.
It recovered that ball, yeah.
Like, there's just no doubt about it. I don't know why it didn't get overturned. I don't know what they needed to see to not overturn it. And then, like you say, the Eagles score 4 plays later. And, obviously there's a lot of good teams in the NFL, but I'm not sure how many teams there is I'd want to be behind less against than the Eagles. If I can go ahead of the Eagles and make Jalen Hurts throw the ball to come back, I feel much more confident in having to catch them up. And again, I'm not sure how many more teams there is with such a disparity there. Because the Eagles, the next touchdown came at the end of the third quarter. I'm pretty sure Dallas got it, stiff arming.
He slowed down, didn't he? Patty said. He said he slowed down to stiff arm him again.
Incredible. But yeah, the Eagles weren't firing on all cylinders offensively by any means. If Green Bay keep that ball, even if they don't score, just kick it down, the end of the field. It becomes a field goal game. Maybe Brandon McManus missed a field goal, which again would have kept it tight early on. But I think ultimately it just became too much for Green Bay, didn't it? The physicality of the Philadelphia Eagles just ground and pound as the most purest sense.
Yeah, it was a weird game in the sense. This is one of them I was like, oh, come on, the Packers, just get back in it, just do something and get back. But it never felt like, even though the score's 12 points and it wasn't like the Eagles blew them out points-wise, it never felt like the Packers were ever going to get back into it. It was one of them weird ones. As soon as like you said, the fumble, the touchdown, it was like, oh, this game more or less might be done. And, it was rough. Obviously, the injuries was massive. But I'm curious what they're going to do now, because we were praising them for having a lot of, like, second receivers, having like 4 or 5 of them on the squad, not having a man to, like, step up. And there's been a few teams like that where it's like you probably do need that guy, especially when you get to the playoffs where, when you look at all the teams, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Puka Nakua, they all like stepped up and was the man, like throw it to me and I'll get this. Where I've never felt like the Packers have that, even if Watson was playing. Josh Jacobs played great, but yeah, John Love had a bit of a stinker, and that Eagles defense came as advertised. If it's not Jalen Carter, then Nolan Smith with 2 sacks. He had a huge game. The cornerbacks played great. Obviously, not great having Kobe Dean go out, and he's done. I think he's done his knee ligament, which feel for the guy because it feels like he's just he had a great season after coming back from injuries, and happens again. So that's probably the only downside. But when Hurts only throws it for how many times? 21 times, and only connects 13 for 131 yards, but gets 2 touchdowns. It didn't really need to do anything else. It just felt a comfortable game just because the defense had him, and that's the kind of. I think it's fine against the Packers. It's probably going to be fine next week. With that defense, it's just it's to play someone like the Lions, and that's when you worry. But the scramble Jordan Love, who had a bit of a stinker in terms of how he came out of last year, the playoffs. Obviously, had that big game against the Cowboys, had a good game against the 49ers until he went off the boil right at the end. But it feels like this year, it's like, oh shit, we've just given him shitloads of money. Is he going to be the next Aaron Rodgers as the Packers QB history goes? I'm not quite sure. I don't know. It just, he wasn't there and just wasn't a good game for me. And he's had a weird season in general.
Yeah. Injuries early on, didn't he? Injuries early on. He had a rough finish. He didn't, for 3 quarters against the Vikings in week 17, he didn't play particularly well. They ended up coming back a bit, didn't they? But yeah, it's a bit worried.
That's the biggest red flag.
He was injured. Specifically for Love, he came out of the game quite early, didn't he, in that one? But yeah, they finished with 3 losses in a row. To end their season, it feels very much a different feeling for the Packers than it did 12 months ago when they got bounced by the Niners in the divisional round. But for the Eagles, I fully expect them to be better on offense next week. Saying that, Saquon still had a great game. It was just more managing it. I think, Byron, in our preview, you described kind of this exact situation, really, of how you felt the game was going to go, about the Eagles just kind of only doing what they really need to get by, and that kind of felt like that was the case.
Yeah, it didn't make great watching, but a little satisfying to predict it as it happened, I guess. I was a little annoyed, actually. Probably move on to bet we didn't hit. Jordan Love couldn't have thrown one of them interceptions for a touchdown. Come on, Jordan. That was a little underwhelming. He threw 3 of them.
Yeah.
You kick off fumble couldn't have went to somebody and they just run it in. No, they just got to bang me in a big spot.
Yeah. I was kind of, I suppose, almost there. I hit. So you had the under, Byron. Joe, you had the alt line on the Eagles. So you had the Eagles minus 6.5 for plus 112. I just took the Eagles minus 4.5. I kind of felt the way the game was going, I was going to get my Philly special, the rushing parlay, but you mentioned that Saquon could have gone at the end, which would have hit 3 of the props, but I would have needed 2 rushing touchdowns.
I felt like they had a rushing touchdown before, but then just like looking at
touchdowns, So obviously they've had 1 at that point, and then Saquon would have gone. That would have hit it, but I'd have been real pissed off then if he slid, for sure, when he had that. But understand why. He really does show. He's shown so many times around. It's bigger than that one moment. It's bigger than an accolade. It's bigger than a touchdown. It's bigger than a number.
I get that, but I think this time it was a bit like, why'd you slide? You would have been 19 points ahead with like a minute to go.
It feels like he's supposed to show he's the ultimate team player every single week.
Well, I think if
he doesn't want his individual record. He doesn't want a touchdown.
Yeah. I think a few of his teammates were like, why don't you just run a little bit further? Just waste a bit more time.
Yeah. Why? He could have just ran around hurdling people backwards for a minute. I don't know. But yeah, why put the defense back out on the field? Why take a risk? And so, yeah, I mean, hopefully for him, if you're doing that, then the payoff is to win the championship. I mean, I really don't hopefully win it. Obviously, I can't put that to one side. But also, by the way, did you see that horrible, abhorrent guy in the crowd just abusing? Two Packers, a couple who were Packers fan.
Awful the outcome of this.
Lady, yeah, they've found him and
Big Dom found him, not just
Big
they.
Dom found him. Yeah,
Big Dom found him, banned for life.
Good.
And the lady's receiving Packers gears from the Eagles. So
excellent. Yeah, what a horrible
back in the bag.
What a horrible, abhorrent guy. Yeah, I know Philly fans have got the reputation for being like, oh, that was a bit extreme.
I think honestly, the not having the fans segregated, I get why they do it, but I don't think it's a smart idea when drinking in the stadium. Yeah. You see these fights break up like in the concourses, like so often in these American football grounds. I don't know why they don't just have segregation.
Well, it's usually the same supporters who are fighting.
When it's the same supporters, obviously nothing you can do. That's just dickheads being dickheads. Yeah. But I mean, I've only been to 2 Bears games. I love watching the NFL. I don't think I'd happily go to another NFL game. There's so many breaks. It's such a long day. I don't know. I didn't super enjoy it. Also, I missed out on seeing Lamar Jackson because he was ill. So that didn't help. Anyway, but every time I stood up, I had this woman behind me, yelling, who was a Baltimore fan, sit down, we can't see. It's like, the guy's on a fucking, it's a big play, you idiot, stand up. So, people just get antsy very easily, and just segregate the fans. There's no need to have them in the same seating.
I'm a big back row guy for the NFL. I'll sit on the back row at the top. That's my spot.
You're banging on there, making the chance.
Yeah. I think it's just the best spot as well to kind of see the whole field as well. It's good, yeah. It's my preferred spot for especially the Wembley games or at Spurs when go. Right, that was the Eagles-Packers summary. On to the early game on Sunday, Bills-Broncos. This looked like it was going to be fun to start with. Broncos came out the blocks. Obviously, they hit the big touchdown pass. Bo Nix hits to Troy Franklin, the first rookie-to-rookie pass in the playoffs I can't remember. It was it was a very long time. Was it 10 plus years? It might have been even longer.
I didn't hear this stat now, so I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I will find it. I had it and I've clicked it off. Oh, but yes. Anyway, the Broncos real aggressive to start. The fake punt. I thought they were going to give the Bills a game, and then just kind of the second half it fell apart, and the Bills just kind of ended up running away with it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened. I felt for Denver a bit. I felt they had a really good start. I think they contained Buffalo well in the first half. And to be fair, the touchdown to put them ahead, Ty Johnson, a bit of a shaky one, right? Was that ball secured when he got touched out of bounds? I don't know. We had an interception in the Saturday game, Chargers-Texans, that I don't think was any less worthy of a turnover than that was, or not a turnover, a reversal. I felt the Bills were pretty lucky with that one. But then once it was 21-7, it was night and game over. Broncos didn't have the weaponry to catch up. Good season for Bo Nix, good second season for Sean Payton, but I thought the Broncos might be a bit spicy here and compete, but once it got away from them, a bit like saying about the Eagles, you don't want to try and catch up from behind. If you're the Broncos, you don't want to be a team who's trying to play catch up. You kind of need to play from the front, and they didn't do well enough to do so. Yeah,
I think kind of some of their strengths of who were expecting maybe the D-line to give them problems, to give the Bills problems. They didn't really. It was a bit of a struggle. I think they'd sacked 63 sacks and they sacked twice. The Bills only had to punt once. It ended up being a bit one-sided, and the Bills just kind of, once they got going in that second half, it just didn't look like it. It didn't look like it was ever going to be in doubt to do in this one. does set us up Bills-Ravens for next week. I think all of this wildcard weekend is going to have been worth it for Bills-Ravens next week, I think. We're going to get Joe, what do you make of the Bills?
Yeah, like so when the Broncos got that first touchdown, I was like, oh, here we go. Byron's prediction is on. And I was like, oh, wow, because it was a great throw. And it was like, oh, God, this Bills defense is very up and down. It feels like they're not a superstar defense. And then when they stopped him on that field goal, the Broncos defense did pretty well in that first half. They limited them to 10 points. If you give them that option, they would have snapped your hand off. And obviously there wasn't a lot of series really. There was only 7 because the Bills just kept the ball, and I think I predicted that the Bills would run all over them. I think they ran for 210 yards by the end of it. And that most of that was in the first half. I think they got 140 in the first half. So they were running all over them, but they weren't getting the points. I mentioned the touchdown, which, it was 50-50. It was up in the air with that one. I think what was massive was after you do that fake punt and you get our boy Marvin Mims, the special teams catch, you've got to cash in there because you've just you've just made a massive play. You've got to at least get 3 points or do something, and then it just went 3 and out straight after that. And I thought that was massive to get something. And then obviously missing the field goal at the end of the half because the Bills were going to get it. And it felt like if they could make it 10-10, make it interesting. But as soon as they came out, got the field goal, again, another 5-yard, 5 minutes of keeping the ball, and then they literally got 3 and out. Then it just felt like the Denver defense was on the field for so long in that second half and even that first half, and they just wore them down with all the running. And then Josh Allen just, started throwing bombs because I think in the first half, I don't think he even threw 100 yards in the first half. So the play day, Haller wanted to do a lot of running, and then when they tired out the defense, Josh Allen just went a bit nuts and was just hitting bombs here, there, and everywhere. And as soon as he went 21-7, that was game over. And I don't know if you saw in the news, apparently Bo Nix had been playing with a broken back the last few weeks, or the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Carrying this offense, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. They've had a great season, but I think we're all happy that the Bills got through, and we might see the game of the year really coming up against the best 2 MVP front runners we've had for a while. So should be fun.
Yeah. I think your point on the aggressiveness of the Broncos was great. I think they just abandoned that second half. There were so many. How many times did they go 3 and out? And they went run. I think it was consecutive drives at the start of the second half. They went run, pass, punted both times, 2 drives. I suppose the bit about being aggressive as well, on that drive where you get the fake punt, the 4th and 7 at the Buffalo 39 and punt. And you feel like, once unless that's 4th and 15 or something, I feel like I'm going for it.
Yeah.
Plus territory punting after converting a fake punt. Yeah. That just does not compute. Yeah, great. They got the Bills to the 1 yard line, which is fair enough, but I just felt like you just go for it.
And they also got the Bills to punt it back, but they had the ball for 6.5 minutes. I think that's the time of possession must have been mad because it just like I said, it felt like, especially in that first half. So in the game, the Bills 41 minutes to the Broncos 18, and I think it showed. Like I said, I think Vance Joseph coached this defense really well. But if you're on the field longer than 35 minutes, then you're going to get worn down. And against Josh Allen, who's arguably top 2, top 3 quarterback in this league, is eventually going to get you when you're super tight. And that's like I said, when Dawson Knox, the tight ends, Shakir had a huge game. He feels like he stepped up to be their number one, and Curtis Samuel had 3 big catches, and they all chipped in where everyone had 1 or 2 catches, and finally paid dividends and an easy win.
Do you think the Bills at this point are just giving up on Amari Cooper as a big part of this offense?
And giving up,
I don't think they need him. Yeah, I don't think they need him though. I think Shakir is looking like, and I can remember Barry saying that stat, like his percentage of catching targets is like ridiculous. It's one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
So they've just got so many weapons in like wide receiver, but then the running game's strong and Josh Allen can do what he wants. So I think if it was like a Denver Broncos where Bo Nix is playing well, but he's not an MVP candidate, then I'd be like, okay, let's try and get that who could be a true number one into the game. But I don't think they really need him to be that number one right now. I think, that's why I'm so interested next week, because obviously we see Zay Flowers play. But again, they don't feel like they need Zay Flowers that much to win a game. They feel very similar kind of teams.
Yeah.
And a shout out to the world's loudest doink as well, that Broncos field goal attempt just before halftime. I've never seen one hit as high up on the posts as that before as well. It was a 50-yard one, but it felt like it was like 3/4 of the way up the post and just made the loudest noise. Yeah, sadly for the Broncos, it didn't doink in like the Commanders one did. But yeah, I mean that could have been a 10-10 tied game at halftime, and yeah. But yeah, Broncos great season for them. Largest dead cap space in the league by a mile. Made the playoffs. Won 10 games.
Found the quarterback.
Finished third in the division as well, so they'll probably get a favourable schedule again next year as well.
Yeah,
lots to be positive about in Denver. Right, Saturday. We've only got 2 games to go. We'll try. We said, we'll do an hour. We're an hour and 5 minutes. Steelers Ravens. How pathetic are the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how great are the Baltimore Ravens? I feel that's where I got. This was it was over as a contest before Pittsburgh even got going. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a bit of a, that this is only a 14-point win does not show how dominant the Baltimore Ravens were in this game. They ran the ball 50 times for 299 yards. They ran all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. I cashed my Baltimore Ravens rush parlay I think I needed 34, 170, and over 1.5 touchdowns. And yeah, Derrick Henry was a beast. 186 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. This was just when you thought the gap between these two couldn't get any bigger. They're just obviously 2 rivals, just at completely different points. This was piss poor from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, so just on, the Steelers had 11 rush attempts for 29 yards, no touchdowns. Derrick Henry on first down alone, had 18 carries for 148 and 2 touchdowns. Insane how good. Well, sorry, not Derrick Henry was. It's insane how easy it looked for Derrick Henry against what I believe is the highest paid defense in the league. They look like they'd given up. Mike Tomlin's come out and said teams shouldn't waste time trying to trade for him. So it seems like he's obviously going to be there next year for Steelers. No sign of him leaving. No sign of him wanting to leave. But we know about the offensive struggles. And at a certain point, it's not good enough to just keep saying, well, they haven't had a quarterback. Well, you've had options to get quarterbacks. Like Sam Darnold's just had a really good year. Baker Mayfield's had really good years. Geno Smith's had really good years. They could have drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round a few years ago. You don't need a number 1 pick to draft a quarterback or to develop a quarterback. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. If you don't have an offensive system and you choose to not to hire offensive coaches who will bring in a system, that is also on you. Mike Tomlin isn't the GM, but what Mike Tomlin says goes in that building. And yeah, I think, like you said, this was a new low for capitulation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've seen them get in and bounce out at the first attempt a number of times. I don't know how many years in a row this is now, but
6 is it 6 goes at it? 6 times.
Yeah, I didn't have to count it, but I thought 6 as well. And I kind of jokingly said it when you were talking in your build up there. This game was over when they were suiting up. The Steelers didn't, from the first snap, didn't look like they were competing. I can't believe it's a 14-point game.
Yeah, it felt like it should have been a lot more than that. And there was almost like a window of a period, 5 minutes, where they might have got it like back into a game. And yeah, I suppose what worrying for the Steelers is, well, I'm not an advocate for Mike Tomlin losing his job at all. Something has to change, though, because it's the same pattern time and time and time again. You know this run that they've had of getting to the first round of the playoffs, losing. All 6 times, they've been down by 2 or more scores, sometimes 5 scores, before scoring a single point on offense.
Wild.
I think it's the second longest playoff loss streak on 6.
That makes sense, yeah.
Do you know who number 1 is? Got one more.
I always feel like it's going to be the Jets on these kind of things.
No, it's Marvin Lewis with the Bengals. They lost 7 in a row. So 1 more year to Tomlin to break another record.
It's breaking another record. Yeah, it feels like feels like something has to change because you're just stuck in a rut. You know, on that note, around talking about, and I feel like this is not what we should be doing right now. We should be saving this for the off season. But you know, when someone's been in as a head coach for as long as Mike Tomlin has, we talk around a Shanahan tree, or we talk around Andy Reid tree.
John McVay.
But yeah, McVay. Who's Mike Tomlin's tree? Because you'd feel like
Brian Flores spent some time there. Well, I mean, even if he did, like, we're struggling for one.
Yeah. And I was like, Bruce Arians. But Bruce Arians was already there when Tomlin took over. He was under Bill Cowher.
And didn't Mike Tomlin essentially force him to retire?
Yeah.
Well, like, he announced his retirement, and Bruce Arians said, "No, I'm not retiring. I'm going to go and win a fucking Super Bowl after you do, pal."
Yeah. So, like, yeah, there's just something fundamentally wrong. Mike Tomlin is not. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin is a fantastic head coach. Something has to change.
I did just look as well. Brian Flores was there after he was the head coach, so I don't think he can be counted because he's already had a head coaching job.
Yeah. So, Something's fundamental. They've got so many questions. Quarterback being the key one, and they're just not in a position to do anything, to truly do anything with it. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Darnold. I don't know, but it's not going to be Fields. It's probably not going to be Russell Wilson.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is Russell Wilson, but again, maybe more of an off-season subject, just because I think he's liked in the building, and I just don't seem like a team who's going to shake things up.
Yeah.
Speaking of important questions, would you like a quick trivia question?
Bonus trivia question on review.
It'll be a quickie. Who are the 4 coaches most recently defeated by Mike Tomlin in the playoffs?
Defeated by Tomlin in the playoffs. I'm sure it's
Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, yes. When he came up, I was like, we're going to get Marvin Lewis at least. Yep.
That makes sense.
That's when they got the interception and they ran down the tunnel.
Yeah, Vontae's birthday game.
Yeah. And they killed. That's when Antonio Brown life changed.
Game against CT Brown. Yeah.
So when was that? Like 2016, 2015?
In my head, that's 2014. So it's 2015, but 2014 season. I might be wrong, but I think that's when it is. I don't have the years of these.
Was it the Cardinals coach when he got to the Super Bowl? I don't know who was the head coach.
That would have been Bruce Arians, I think. But
no, they did Wisenhunt.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, these are all AFC teams, though. This is after the Super Bowl.
So it'd be whoever they beat before Blake Bortles beat them.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever they beat in the wild card week then.
Yep.
And I can't remember who it was.
It was Andy Reid before he had Patrick Mahomes.
So it was Andy Reid.
6 field goals.
Of course it was.
Didn't score a touchdown.
I'm just going to throw out did they ever beat the Patriots, Belichick?
I think it's before the time of the most recent 4. I think he's beaten once in the playoffs. I'll just maybe tell you the other 2.
Rex Ryan?
Rex Ryan is 4th. So
nice.
You've got pre-Mahomes Reid as the 1st, Blank as 2nd, Marvin Lewis 3rd, Rex Ryan 4th. 5th was John Harbaugh. I thought he was too credible to include here. So I've just done the 4. The 2nd one is one of the worst coaches in NFL history. We'll never have another red job in the NFL. I would wager money on it. When you think bad head coaches, you probably think of this guy. I would think pretty early.
Mike Belarkey? No.
I have no idea.
Coach Sam Darnold, famously.
Oh, Adam Gase.
Adam Gase.
The
I don't
Dolphins.
know what he was doing in the playoffs, but yeah, there he was, getting beat by Mike Tomlin. So yeah, the last 4 coaches Mike Tomlin beat in the playoffs.
Adam
Pre-Mahomes,
Gase
Andy
get
Reid.
the Dolphins to the playoffs.
Wasn't that where they got the quarterback injured?
I believe so.
Or was that the Bills? It was like Matt Moore, something like that playing.
I think it was Matt Moore. I think you are 100% right, yeah. Pre-Mahomes, Andy Reid, Adam Gase, Marvin Lewis, Rex Ryan. Not to say it's been a while. But, I mean, even the fact you can say it's pre-Mahomes was the last one.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has been in the league a little while now.
It's just, again, like... We'll save the rest of the thought for
I was going to say the biggest problem is you're in a conference with the 3 best quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Possibly, if CJ Stroud takes a step, like you have to have one of them to be even a contender in the AFC.
You're in the division with 2 of the best 4.
Cost Burrows, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like, good luck.
Yeah, and I feel like we're piling in on the Steelers here. But last one, when was the last time TJ Watt recorded any sort of defensive stat?
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how many snaps 12. It was. I did see it. It was like 190 snaps, I think, was the number. But I don't know how many games that is.
Yeah, it is. It has been a while.
Yeah, it's wild. If that was another defensive end, I think we would not hear the end of it. Because Myles Garrett or Mike Parsons, not any defensive end.
It was
TJ Watt has a certain... a lot of media credibility, and he's a very good defensive end. He's a very good defensive player, but I think sometimes he's a bit overinflated. Yeah. I think he should be one of them.
I think I would say it's the first half of the Christmas Day game. He's got 2.5 games without a tackle, without an assisted tackle, without a pass tipped, without any of his usual stuff. Forced fumble, sack. 2.5 games.
And he won't be having one for a while.
He's going to have to wait till September. And again, that's not... I love TJ Watt, he's awesome, but that's just kind of what they had him doing in that game was ridiculous against the Ravens. Right, let's talk about how good the Ravens were, because we've spent 10 minutes talking about the Steelers. Ravens, incredible. How do we think they match up quickly against the Bills? Because, again, I don't want to dig in on the Steelers. Was there enough in here to say, well, if they approached the game the same way, they could beat the Bills?
Yeah. Jump on Derrick Henry's back. Have Lamar go out wide. I think it's a big Derrick Henry game needed. And again, been saying it a while now. Baltimore rush the ball well, they'll probably win, is my feeling on it.
Yeah, both teams had the ball for 40 minutes. Obviously, they can't do that again. So it's...
it's going to give.
Yeah, unless it goes to overtime. And there's a crazy overtime, but,
Shout out the NFL scheduling that for a 11:30 p.m. UK time kickoff. And I can probably cope with that and stay up and watch that for Monday for work.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Appreciate that. I just thought it was impressive. Obviously, the 13-play drive where they just ran and ran and ran and ran and just forced their will on the Pittsburgh Steelers was just outstanding stuff. That we talked about that defense since they made the move of putting Kyle Hamilton back in week 11-12. Has been a game changer for them because they were just getting passed on by everyone. Feel they probably weren't tested to the fullest here. Again, it's just backhanded shots at the Steelers. Sorry, guys. And then just run Henry run is where they're at. Yeah, I'm so pumped for this game next week. So pumped.
Trying to decide MVP. I know it's been voted on, but
guess this is a way to do it. All right, one game to talk about left, and then we'll wrap up. Texans Chargers from Saturday. Texans 32, Chargers 12. I want to start again. I feel like bad going in on the Steelers. I think we have to go in on the Chargers here. What the fuck are the Chargers playing at? We talked about in the preview about the Chargers will not give you the game. They will not beat themselves. All that went out the window. Herbert threw more interceptions in this game than he did in the entirety of the regular season. Threw 4 interceptions. Just a disaster of an afternoon for the LA Chargers. Why do you think it went so wrong for them?
I mean, I think we have to give a lot of credit to the Texans defense, especially Derek Stingley, and especially that the front, Will Anderson, especially just harassed, got at him all game. Chargers O-line didn't stand up to it at all. But you do expect better from Justin Herbert, who we rightly, and a lot of the NFL media rightly praises as being a beautiful thrower of the ball. And he is. But he did not cover himself in glory here by any means. When the big plays need to be made, they weren't being made. Lad McConkey obviously went off. I think he had nearly 200 yards, 195-ish. Was cooking. But outside of Lad McConkey, that is a pass-catching group that needs a lot of work in this offseason. Quentin Johnson, you go to Quentin Johnson on 4th and 2, I believe it was, 1-on-1 against Derek Stingley. And you might as well put me on Derek Stingley. He's not beating him. He's not getting past him. It didn't look close to it. Will Disley had a few big drops. I think one of them led to an interception, in fact. But these aren't players that you should be relying on to win playoff games. With that said, though, I mean, you look at the Texans wide receiver group as well after Nico Collins, same with after Lad McConkey, and it's not exactly a who's who of, A-list players. So they found a way by going up against Chargers defense that didn't perform to the level of the Texans. I don't think Chargers are here for long. I said there was a dud team coming into the weekend. I think, truthfully, that was probably Pittsburgh. Maybe did the Texans defense a bit too much dirty there. Offense still, obviously, I'd say it's a work in progress, but I think it's just kind of a unit that's skimping by. I don't think there's much progress being made right now. And they're down a player since Saturday as well. Deontay Johnson released today. I don't even think they actually wished him well. I think they just said he has been let go. So
I don't think it's down a player. They might have just add a spot.
Addition by subtraction.
Well, based on his stat line from Saturday, he'd have been the fourth on the Chargers receiving list in terms of stats. He had one grab for 12 yards, which was better than DJ.
It was crazy. It was crazy this game. Just how the Texans. Well, first off, how the Chargers started that first drive. They just felt like they did whatever they wanted to do to this Texas team. I remember watching. I think I messaged the group saying, "Oh, this could be ugly because they're just doing what they want." And then the Texans fumble straight away. And the Chargers, 6 plays, 12 yards, but again, with a field goal. I think that was a big moment, not getting any touchdowns in any of them 2 drives. I feel like that would have just cemented and calmed it down. But, then the Chargers then the Texans went 3 and out, punted. Chargers went 4 and out, punted. The Texans punted after 5 plays, same as the Chargers. Then the front interception. And we were mentioning, how the Chargers not winning this game comfortably. It was like how much of the Houston offense just wasn't going. Then the Chargers threw an interception straight away, which is huge. Texans on the back, and then it was that broken down play where Stroud, he gets dropped. He's like scrambling around, and he has that huge play to John Mechie, and suddenly they get a touchdown from that drive where that could have ended like completely different, and suddenly just switched the light on. How they managed to go, and then obviously didn't help. Then the Chargers got 3 and out, and it allowed Texans to get a field goal. The fact that Texans were 10-6 up at halftime, I was sort of like, how the hell has this happened? This Texans offense has been terrible. And the Chargers offense started the first, especially the first drive, started off really well. Felt like they should be winning this by, a good 7 to 10 points. And they just, was just shocking in the second half. And how this ended up 32-12, I do not know. But, Herbert's got that stink on him now. It's one of them, I know he hasn't got the players around him, but that game he ranked. So according to Shield Capadia, his tweet was out of the last 10 years of all the performances, he ranked 213 out of 214 for EPA per pass in the 10 years. And the only player who had to have worse was Brian Hoyer against the Chiefs, where they lost 30-0. So
I'm trying to think who was worse.
So he's had that really bad game, it was shocking. And then obviously the previous playoff game is when they were up big on the Jags, and again so that's 2 games in the second half where he's gone down the tank. And like I said, he's getting a run and when the media. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, and he gets a lot of praise because of the big arm and whatnot. But if you can't do it in the big game, then are you a top 10 quarterback? And I think now he's done 2, and just how bad they've been and how embarrassing that loss was, the Jags being up so much. And also then how bad this game and embarrassing it was. Lamar has that stink about the playoff, losing the playoffs. It's only going to be in Herbert's. He's going to have that reputation now unless he does something, because they were just terrible just after that first drive, just all the way around. And I guess the Texans offense, who were just equally as terrible in that first half, to not come away with anything and then throw them interceptions and just have a nightmare of a second half. It's
I mean, there's only Lad McConkey stat line that saved it from being truly even worse, like 14 of 32 that Herbert threw for. You've got the 4 picks in there, but McConkey 9 for 197. One of them, the one that he broke would have been picked.
Yeah.
That he broke and obviously bumped the stats, but it was an 86-yard touchdown. But that moment you singled out, Joe, I think was key. So the Chargers not taking advantage and potentially to get a 2-score lead. The Xavier Hutchinson pass, the fumble snap, 3rd and 7. I think they were 3rd and 16 inside their own 20. And CJ Stroud keeps his cool and finds that. And that just all of a sudden gave them that spark. And they didn't look back from there. They're going to need to be a lot better on offense, the Texans, if they're going to give the Chiefs a game next week. We've seen that game 3 weeks ago. That was week 16 or week 15 game.
Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Christmas?
No, Christmas was Texans-Ravens.
Oh, so the week before then.
Yeah. So week 16, yeah. Mixon had a solid game on the ground, but I think, they're going to need to offer a lot more. But that defense can cause the Chiefs problems. They were unreal. So again, they were just all over. That defensive front were just all over Herbert and throwing things off. And real impressed by them. They're going to need to probably take it up another step. And Derek Stingley's just a beast, isn't it? Absolute beast. Comfortable for the Texans in the end. They love that time slot as well. I think they're 6-2 in that time slot in the last 8, and they've got that time slot again. But heading to the Chiefs.
Cowboys with 7 turnovers during that game as well. It was turnovers, mad.
It was just sloppy. There was a lot of sloppy offensive football all weekend long, I thought. Hopefully, look, this is the divisional round now. You got to take it up another step. Well, that's Houston Texans, back-to-back AFC South titles, back-to-back wildcard wins. We're going to have the Kilted Texan returning on our preview episode for the divisional round. We're going to speak to Graham, the Kilted Texan. Wonder if he'll be making his way out to Houston, to Kansas for it. I don't know. Might be a bit too cold for a Kilted Texan in Kansas. Let's wrap up then. We've got a couple of bits to cover, I suppose. 4-4 was a disaster. Glad I won it in the regular season. I was 0-4. Chargers as a favourite, lost outright. Steelers as an underdog, killed. I picked the under for the only game that hit the over.
That's absolutely incredible.
Well, what was the nickname you gave him, Byron? Which I thought was great.
Oh, the Paulsburg Steelers.
Yeah, the Paulsburg Steelers. Guess the playoffs, didn't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I had the over in Broncos Bills. Yeah, I had a disaster. Barry, you fared a bit better. You went 2-2. Eagles is your favourite, and under in Steelers Ravens. Over in Washington, in Commanders, Bucks, and the Broncos as your underdog didn't hit. And Joe, you had the Commanders as your underdog and under in Broncos Bills, and you had the over in Monday night Vikings Rams, and you had the Vikings as your favourite as well. So not really covered ourselves in glory, but you lads went 2-2 at least. Tough road back from 0-4 in the first week of a playoff picks competition, I think. But 2-2. One of you can win the small trophy. And then in the wild card round predictions, 3.
You two went 3-3. I went 4-2.
You went 4-2. We cursed the Chargers, didn't we? All 3 of us selecting the Chargers and them losing outright. I suppose, yeah. And Byron, the standalone win, which are always good. The Rams, you're the only one picking the Rams.
Surprising.
So, yeah, Joe a game ahead. Long way to go yet in this one. Well, 7 games. And then finishing off the episode this week, Fantasy Game Day. I say Sunday Stars. It was the Wild Card Stars, I suppose. Probably should have changed that, but forgive me. But yeah, the UK's best and fastest growing NFL daily fantasy platform continues into the playoffs. So make sure you are come and give it a go if you haven't already. Use promo code COVER. You'll get a free entry after your first play on us. Get a freebie. The winner, Lime 8231, 140 points. We were a bit behind. We were about 29 points behind in 39th, but we cashed. So well done. Byron, you selected the lineup this week, so well done. Yes. But the winning lineup had Josh Allen as the quarterback with 25 and a half points. Derrick Henry, I suppose it was a split of people going Henry or Saquon. So Henry had the 2 touchdowns off the back of it, nearly 200 yards. Josh Jacobs had a solid game as well. Particularly enjoyed his angry run. That was incredible, fighting through almost the entirety of the Philadelphia Eagles defense for 21. Keon Coleman had a quiet game, only 1 catch, but Nico Collins, big game with a touchdown. And TJ Hawkinson as well. His touchdown bumped up his points for 17. That's what got us our cash. Isaiah Likely and Jaden Reed had relatively quiet games. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough with these obviously really fewer games. We're down to 4, so you've really got to try and find someone who's that differential player. We'll talk about our tips for the divisional round, but it does make it a lot trickier.
Yeah, Nico Collins, a really bold one here for Lime, the old Limey, to hit, because we certainly didn't consider Nico Collins in that game with it. Like you say, you bet the under on it being the only over of the week. None of us took it as an over either, so I'm not saying, it's necessarily a silly choice. None of us thought the Texans were going to do much offensively, so putting Nico Collins in is a real show of faith, and he who dares, or they who dares maybe, I don't know who Lime is, wins. So yeah, good for them. Good shout with Nico Collins.
Excellent. Make sure you go play Fantasy Game Days, individual games for the, I presume there'll be one for every game this week. And there'll be variations of the Divisional Round Sunday Stars games as well over the course of the weekend. So get involved. Gentlemen, that's us. Not at all done in a timely fashion. But we'll be back. We've got our preview with Graham Henderson's going to be the guest, the Killick Texan. He came on 12 months ago. It was the first time Graham came on in this spot. The Texans had just won a wild card game, and they were going to play the Ravens. So
wear the curse if it doesn't go right.
Yeah, and we'll talk through and break down the 4 divisional matchups, share our best bets, fantasy game day tips, all the usual stuff. So thanks for joining us. Follow if you're not already on Spotify. You'll be notified new episodes when they're dropped. You can, if you want to watch us while listening, YouTube at GTW_GTC. The same on X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. I think that's them all. Until the divisional round preview, enjoy the rest of your week.
Cheers.